thanks for tuning in to AP on Play. A very timely topic today, Roosevelt Elementary School, with our special guest, David Emerling. Good afternoon, David.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
I'm happy to have you here. I want to jump into Roosevelt Elementary School because, as you know, this is where I went to elementary school. But awesome. Why don't you first give the readers a little snippet of your background, the audience?
I am a Keego Harbor resident, been there for almost 15 years now, and become just passionate about the community and the city and the walkable town and the lakes, but most importantly, the historic part of Keego Harbor, which is Roosevelt Elementary School. It was the first high school for West Bloomfield, built in 1920
right.
by some famous architects. And it is the most walkable school. It was the most walkable school in the West Bloomfield district, and the kids just love it. My two kids who actually went there as a magnet kids. And it's just something that not every town or city has is a beautiful historic building in the downtown area. We, as a city, passed a bunch of ordinances, 170 actually, to make Cass Lake Road a much more walkable and village feel downtown. And the centerpiece of that is Roosevelt Elementary School. So when the district decided to close the building 2 years ago, and then proceeded to decide that they want to knock it down, our community just was outraged, and we've been fighting it ever since.
Okay, so let's start with the knockdown, because as I understand it, this kind of motley crew of people got together and voted to demolish it. Do I have that right?
You have it spot on.
Okay.
It basically, they came up with what they're labeling a strategic visioning committee. It was 12 people. And those 12 people were made up of 3 school board members. And if you count the 3 school board members, you only need 4 for an affirmative vote. So they stacked the deck from the beginning.
Do these school board members live in Keego Harbor?
Not one of them.
Okay.
Not one of them. They do live in the district. They have to for being on the school board, but not one of them. By the way, nobody on the school board lives in Keego Harbor anymore. They used to, but not anymore. The other 9 were all people that worked for the district. They worked right for the superintendent, who was all for knocking down the building from day one. And she hired a bunch of people from her Ferndale heritage, where she moved from before West Bloomfield. And all 9 of those people that work for the district, not one of them even live in the district, let alone Keego Harbor. So they're coming from the outside telling us at Keego Harbor what they're going to do with our historic building.
Okay, so hang on. How do these 12, the school board I get, how do these 9 people who work for the school district get to vote on this?
They didn't vote. They made the recommendation of demolition.
Okay. Did they form their own committee, or are these just random people who work for the school district?
That was the established committee that the district came up with, and the superintendent came up with this as how they were going to operate this vision, this future vision.
And these 9 were chosen by the superintendent?
And approved by the school board, I'm assuming.
How long has the superintendent been around?
I think she hired in maybe 3 years ago.
Okay.
When Dr. Hill retired.
Okay. So this happened in September of 2023.
Correct.
All right. What has happened since then?
At that meeting in September, when they baked in the demolition of Roosevelt, they basically in the vote for the demolition, one of the couple of the school board members fought back, and they basically said, let's remove the demolition of Roosevelt off of the 9 other strategic. Everything else was related to learning and school education. So there was a couple suggestions. One was to remove it separately, make that vote separately, and the other was to delay it until there was more financial information, because there was no financial information, how much the land was worth, how much the building was worth with the land, how much it would cost for demolition. None of that was disclosed before they voted to go forward. So at that particular time, one of the board members asked, what happens if an offer comes in between now and when we go for demolition? And at the time, it was stated that all those offers would go to the board for discussion, and that this was just a first step. Well, that never happened. All kinds of offers came in, and it never came on to a board meeting. In March 18th of 2024, they brought, again, the vote up now for the demolition and the remediation. And again, there was a pushback by a couple board members, but the vote was ended up being 4-2. One of the members got carted off in the middle of the meeting. So there was not the same 5-2 as the first vote.
Hang on, let's not gloss over that. What does that mean, carted off in the middle of the meeting?
Oh, she had a medical emergency and she got carted off.
Okay.
But it's, even though there was again pushback by the two members about fiscal irresponsibility, at that particular meeting, they finally decided that there was a need for having an appraisal. They hired an appraiser, and they came up with ridiculous numbers: 1.2 million for the land by itself,
Okay.
and 500,000 for the building with the land, which is just outrageous. But the cost of demolition was about 600,000, which is actually very, very low. And they knew it was actually low. One of the, again, our Novo person brought up saying, there's got to be contingencies and added money, because $100,000 for remediation isn't even close to what the number should be.
Right.
But then they went ahead and voted anyways, 4-2.
And so that was in March of 2024.
Correct.
Okay. So when did the legal action start? Because I know our audience, like myself, has probably been reading snippets in the news about I think it was Judge McMillan and Oakland County Circuit Court ordered the destruction to stop and then lifted the stay.
Right.
And then I think you took it to the Court of Appeals, or maybe your group took it.
Yeah. So we created a nonprofit, Heart of the Lakes Community. It's an official nonprofit through to the government. So it's an official nonprofit, and that's really where all the court goes. All the legal action is going through that nonprofit. There's 5 people that are the plaintiffs on that. We deliberately waited until the vote of the March 18th meeting. We literally filed the Friday before, and the reason why we did that is because we one of the biggest movements in this suit is the Open Meeting Act violation. And the Open Meeting violation says that you can't negotiate and deliberate behind the scenes. So when they went with all of the different ideas of what to do with Roosevelt, it was never discussed what all the other options were. It was just told that committee that we talked about came up with the recommendation. We asked what the other 5 different recommendations for Roosevelt was that the committee came up with. We got rejected by FOIA, saying that document doesn't exist, and and so we don't know what the other 4 different proposals were. So what did they vote on? They voted on what that recommendation was that was done behind the scenes, and that's against Open Meeting Act. So the problem is that you only have 60 days to challenge that, and we were way beyond that.
Okay.
So other initiatives that we have in our suit is the people that created the Open Meeting Act violation, that you could challenge them for 180 days, and they're held liable for that personally. 180 days expired the Friday before the vote. Okay. So we filed that deliberately. But we also didn't make public that we did file, because we had a feeling they were going to violate that same Open Meeting Act again on March 18th. So there was 3 companies that bid on the remediation. There was 10 companies that bid on the demolition. And it was AUK, which is their contractor, that did all of the boiling down of what contract was going to be recommended, and the only thing was presented was their recommendation, no other discussion of any of those other bids.
And how do you know this?
Because we go to all the study sessions and we record that study session, so we watched what happened, and we actually put that into our suit. So then on March 18th, when they voted, they rubber stamped again what AUK did with everything offline. So we added that to our suit.
Okay.
So we amended our suit on March 19th to include the 18th date. So that's what our lawsuit was. And there's other things, FOIA infractions.
Right.
And demolition, the abatement and the demolition infractions are all still pending in court, but that's not what held up the current stay. That's all related to the Open Meeting Act violation.
Okay. Let us talk about why the school board wants to demolish Roosevelt Elementary ostensibly. Not what our theories are, but what they're saying. What is their purpose?
They don't tell us. We don't
Is
know.
is there any legitimate reason to demolish this gem in Keego Harbor?
I'm going to challenge you.
I can't think of one.
I mean, everybody asks us that. I mean, and I wish I had an answer.
Yeah, I mean,
because
it's
if they would be transparent to us and
Yes.
tell us, you know, we've tried everything. We don't know. There's nothing else, and you'll see the reason because it's so clear because of this. We FOIA'd everything. We can't get to any solution of what possibly they've told us charter schools is a concern, and we don't believe that.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, I mean, how is that possible?
Aren't there rules about where charter schools can go?
Charter schools don't go where they are not wanted.
Okay, excellent point.
And
Right.
and it is clear that nobody wants a charter school in Keego Harbor. We've made it clear that even the charter school heads of the people that are in charge of charter schools say that they have no interest in this. So for them to throw out that as an excuse is just outrageous.
Oh, there's Roosevelt right now.
Oh, isn't that a beautiful building?
That's a good one. I was in 4th grade, so I was in the West Bloomfield School District at the time, and I did the magnet program like your kids. And I walked into that school every day, and I can remember the feeling of walking onto the footsteps and saying, wow, this is amazing, because the other schools are not nearly as spectacular.
And what I hear about from the children is they get so excited as they age, they go higher and higher in the building, and so the 3rd and 4th and 5th graders that finally get on the 3rd floor, they're king of the school.
Yes, and I think the magnet program was on the 3rd floor.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
I was reading in the materials something about a Roosevelt teacher, possibly being coerced into saying the school is unsafe.
This whole unsafe thing is just really just lies. There's flat out lies. And a drop ceiling fell in one of the classrooms. No one was hurt. It was an unoccupied room.
Right, it was an unoccupied school, I think.
It was an unoccupied room.
Okay.
The school was in session at the time. And the engineering study that was done as a contract to the insurance claim, a very reputable company called SME, came up with that the 100-year-old nails that are used to hold the drop ceiling rusted and failed, and the result of their study was screws would fix it. The West Bloomfield School District went public saying that the building was structurally not sound, where their report specifically says it was fine, and that screws would fix it, but they buried that in their report. And we FOIA'd a conversation between the assistant superintendent and the superintendent where he says, it looks like the report says screws fixes the problem, and the superintendent says, you're telling me a box of screws fix it? And he wrote back, I guess, with a bunch of question marks. They went public literally right after that saying the building is unsafe for humans to occupy. Mm-hmm. They coerced a very beloved teacher to make the announcement that the school will no longer be used because they knew that she had the following of people believing she did not want to be the spokesperson. And we FOIA'd all that, and we have all those conversations, but they forced her to be the spokesperson. And to this day, they still claim that the school is structurally not sound, which is giving them the ammunition for possibly a very rapid demolition that might not have all the asbestos abated from it, because they're going to claim that the building is not safe for people to be in, and that is very false.
Okay, let's segue into the asbestos. I see we have the map.
Yes, we do have the map.
So explain to the audience, what are we looking at here?
Back in the spring, early this year, there was an estimate of how much asbestos is in the building, and it was quite a bit of the building. They felt like roughly 70,000 square feet of space had to be abated.
Okay.
And that was, and at a very large fee. It would probably be close to $600,000-$700,000 for abatement. And that's what the bid package went out with, is that that amount of asbestos abatement. 3 days before the quotes were due, they emailed the three competing companies, and said, "Oh, we reduced the asbestos count, and now it's at 7,000 or 8,000 square feet." And it went from the full second and third floor, which you see as in that graphic, to 2 classrooms and a janitor's closet.
How can you reduce the asbestos count?
We don't know.
I mean, who decides that?
We have no idea. And we keep calling Eagle, which is our Michigan regulatory entity that monitors all this stuff. And they've been going in and out. The problem is that Eagle does not have the legal capacity to go into unescorted
Okay.
rooms. They have to go with the building owner, and they could show them what they want to show them. And the only legal course of going into rooms that they're not walking them through is by subpoena or having a warrant. And they don't have the manpower, or they don't do that capacity. So they're more of a reactive than a proactive type of organization.
Yeah.
So we are frightened that this $100,000 quote that they are moving on with, which got approved on the 18th of March, is going to really make Keego Harbor very unsafe to live.
Very unsafe.
And it's alarming that this is how they are getting away with this, low bids and moving forward so rapidly. Thank God the court stopped them, because otherwise that building would be starting to be demolished.
The court, I think Oakland County Circuit Court stopped them and then restarted them.
Yes, they
But
did.
in the meantime, you guys got up to the Michigan Court of Appeals,
Yes.
who said what?
Basically, we had a 2-week window to try to get the appeals court to react.
Yeah.
The due date of that 2 weeks was last Tuesday, which was beginning of March, 8th or something. And thank God at 4:30 and that day, the appeals court approved our extension of our stay. So right now, that's where we're at. We're waiting for the appeals court to react.
Okay. So do we have deadlines looming right now?
The 9th, which is in a couple days, the district has their date to react, to respond to our appeal.
Okay.
And then we, as Heart of the Lakes, has 21 days after that to respond to their action.
Okay.
So it takes us pretty much to the end of May.
So our next milestone is we're waiting for the district to respond to basically the petition in the Court of Appeals.
Correct.
After which Heart of the Lakes will respond.
Yes.
Okay. In the meantime, though, I feel like I read you got additional, or not you, but Roosevelt, more bids have come forward
Yes.
for Roosevelt Elementary, correct?
Yes.
So explain what has happened.
So they've already rejected $1.7 million offers. They've rejected $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 offers. When I say reject, they just say the building's not for sale, and that's all they say.
How can the building not be for sale?
I have no words, because the fact is that they don't own the building. The
No.
taxpayers own the building.
Right.
And it's clear, we've gone to pretty much every single school board and study session meeting for the last, at least since the summer last year. And everybody that speaks at the microphone, except for 2 people that were plants, have said they're doing the wrong thing. And we're talking hundreds of people. 3 minutes, that's all they get. 3 minutes, no communication between the board. It's the public comment. And everyone says, save the building, save the building. It's best for this community.
That's all
it's best
I'm
for
reading and hearing.
And Wall Street Journal had an article. I mean, it's just absolutely outrageous that it's all deaf ears. So $1.7 million offer was denied. And just recently, 2 weeks ago, a $2 million offer, $2 million plus offer was denied. And these are cash offers with no contingents. It actually does state in almost every single one of all of these offers, no charter school will be in it. It's not a deed restriction. It's a contract restriction, which is doable by law.
Has there been any other reason set forth aside from this charter school concern? Because I really don't even think that's a concern.
It's not a concern. It is, and in fact, one of the board members did so much statistical analysis that no charter school will move into this building. It's outrageous that they would say that because they don't even want the building as a school because they claim the property's too small, it's too old, it's all this stuff, but yet they think a charter school is going to move in. So how is that an excuse? So it's the $1 million question: why? And they say the property's too small, it's not the standard anymore. So they say they want to save the land. They don't want to get. It's like they don't have a clue what they want to do with this property, but yet they are driven to have it knocked down as soon as possible.
Well, isn't that a little bit of a problem with school boards in general? And I ran for school boards, so I do think I could speak intelligently on this issue. Our people run when their kids are in school and they, want to be maybe the white knight in the school and do right by their children, and they're only there for a finite amount of time. Some school board members hang around, but generally my experience is you're there for a short amount of time and you don't have a long-term vision, neither of the community nor of the school district. You've got blinders on because you're really only invested while your kids are in the school district. You're an anomaly because you are still there and you're invested. But generally, I think that is the problem with school board members.
And it's interesting that you say that because you would, and I'm on a planning commission, I'm on some public seats. You do these things as a voice of the public. When you're an elected official, when you actually run for something that people vote for, you're not being voted in to provide your opinion. You're representing the people, and they're not representing the people. And it's outrageous what they're doing and why they're doing it. They're very secretive. There's no transparency, and that's just against what all public office should be.
It almost seems like there should be a referendum on this issue because it's so hotly contested and very emotional for Keego Harbor.
It's outrageous that an outside entity, whether it's a school board or whether it's any outside entity, could ramrod something that affects so dearly a small community that has long-term effects
right.
to that community. And even our own city council has there's no oversight to these school board members. It's so shocking. The county, the state, the city, nobody can contest these people. And it just to me seems outrageous. There should be an oversight.
I think the school board answers to the superintendent. Am I correct?
No, it's backwards.
No. The superintendent answers to the school board.
They're hired,
so when
they're a hired person.
When you're disgruntled with the school board member, what's your recourse?
Recall.
Really none.
Well,
Yeah.
there actually is one clause that's interesting. We found it is that the governor has power to remove, due to fiscal irresponsibility, a school board member, and this is blatant fiscal irresponsibility because we talked about the $1.7 million offer. We're talking about now a $2 million offer. When you add, which you have to do, the demolition and remediation as costs that they would have to incur to get that land to be for sale, which is what they want. You can't look at an offer to buy the building as is without adding that as sunken costs.
Right.
So you're talking over $3 to $3.5 million, and I want to tell you that West Bloomfield discovered a $1.7 million budget issue last fall.
Okay.
Similar to what happened in Ann Arbor, where they added the money from the state instead of subtracting the money from the state. Not as big a number as Ann Arbor, but it is a big number, and this $1.7 million originally was given to erase that oops. And that money goes right to the education budget, which they're going to have a severe budget problem coming up probably in the next a year or two, because the federal funding is all weaning off of all these school districts, and they didn't save any of it. So they're probably at $4 or $5 million in the deficit that they could wipe off with just the sale of Roosevelt.
Right. I had something I wanted to ask you. Wasn't there a bond? Wasn't Roosevelt Elementary part of a bond on the ballot a couple years ago?
2017, Dr. Hill had a proposal of a bond to build a new middle school. And part of that bond, which was about roughly $143 million, they had restructuring of the elementary schools. And what they were suggesting at the time, before they proposed it, before it went on the ballot, was that between Abbott and Roosevelt, they were going to move their admin building.
Right, okay.
And they didn't want to tell us before the bond what they were going to do, because what they claimed was they were going to either keep Roosevelt as an elementary school and put the admin building in Abbott, or they would move the elementary school to Abbott and put the admin building in Roosevelt. And we wanted Roosevelt to stay as a walkable elementary school, and we fought it tooth and nail, saying, we're not voting for this bond until you tell us what you're going to do with Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Before it went public, they decided to keep Roosevelt as a school. And in that bond, they were going to have $3 million for keeping up Roosevelt with updates and not renovations, but updates and money for maintenance, of course. We all voted for it. Keego Harbor voted for it because we publicly came out with that new disclosure. They never spent the money on Roosevelt. And it ended up they spent very small amount on Roosevelt. And then now they're claiming they're going to use that money as the demolition money, which is just outrageous to us, just outrageous.
I feel like there's a lot that can be investigated here, to say the least.
There is a lot, and we really need people like you to
I was just
dig
going to
in.
ask you, our time is up, but tell me, how can the audience get involved? How can we support you and help the cause for Roosevelt Elementary?
So this cause is very expensive. Fighting a school district is not an easy battle.
No.
And Heart of the Lakes is a nonprofit, as we discussed. We have a fundraiser going on. We have a GoFundMe page. We have a Facebook page, Concerned Citizens for Roosevelt.
Okay, good.
And we do have a GoFundMe page if you search Saving Roosevelt. We need everybody to be asking why this and you being I'll call you an investigative attorney. I would love for you to dig deep and find out because you asked the same question off camera. Why are they doing this? And we don't know.
Well, I don't know how deep I can dig, but I can certainly invite anybody on the show who cares to explain what's going on, because to me, something smells like a rat, but that's just me.
Yeah, well, we all think that same way.
Yeah.
I agree. And the person that uncovers it will be our hero, because
Well, you're my hero, because I love your shirt. I love your cause. As I told you, I was at Roosevelt for 4th grade, and I can remember everything about that year. So you guys are my hero. Thank you.
Well, we'll keep fighting it. We're going to fight the fight, and we're not giving up.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Viewers, thanks for listening. Tune in next time to AP on Play.